What's up guys, KKaceh here. Terrible sorry for not uploading another beta discussion video earlier after the Fei Xiao one. I've been a bit busy with work, but I think the other two characters, Kit, Moze, and Lingsha is going to be a bit lengthy when it comes to discussion, and that's why I think we should cover Moze first. And I think Moze is going to be quite relevant when it comes to his synergy with Fei Xiao. Here it is. This is Moze basic information, all the required materials for him should you want to pre-farm some of it. His ascension material is not ready yet. I don't think it's out currently, so you have to wait until the next update actually drops. But at least you can actually start farming his traces material. And also this one's going to be, I think, for the next weekly bosses, so you can't really pre-farm it. But for now, let's take a look at his basic kit first, and then we start analyzing and theorizing what kind of build or team synergy that we can make with Moze. He's a 4-star, so his kit should not be as complicated as the 5-star characters. Alright, this is Moze, a 4-star Dahan lighting unit with these stats. He has a very high speed, which is very good once again. Just like Fei Xiao, we'll do a quick comparison for stats with other 4-star characters later. Let's take a look at his kit. Basic attack, Hurl the Thorn. Deals lightning damage equal to 50% up to 130% of Moze's attack to a single enemy. I think this will be toned down to maybe 100% at the end. I think most character will end up having 100% damage multiplier for their basic attack. And his skill, Flitting Wing Raid. It marks a designated single enemy target as the prey and deals lightning damage equal to 75% up to 187% of Moze's attack to it. When there are no other characters on the field that are capable of combat, Moze cannot use his skill and dispels the enemy's prey state. Sounds a bit weird, but I think this will gonna become a bit clearer when we take a look at his other stuff like the talent and whatnot. And his ultimate, Dash In, Gash Out. It costs 110 energy, which is on the cheaper side. Increases the damage dealt by this character by 30% up to 60%, which is pretty good. Lasting for 2 turns is quite significant as well, so there's a little bit of uptime of him keep dealing a good amount of damage. And also it deals lightning damage equal to 200% up to 420% of Moze's attack to a single target enemy. And then his talent, Cascading Feather Blade. Moze will enter the departed state while a prey exists on the field. After allies attack the prey, Moze will additionally deal 1 instance of additional lightning damage equal to 50%, 15% up to 37% of his attack, and gains 1 charge. When Moze's charge reaches 7 points, consume all charges to launch 1 follow-up attack to the prey, dealing lightning damage equal to 100%, up to 250% of Moze's attack, and dispel the target's prey state. And then his technique, Baited Wings. After using his technique, Moze gains stealth for 20 seconds. I think this is similar to Zilla. While stealth inactive, Moze cannot be detected by enemies. Action advanced by 50% and increases the damage Moze dealt by 30%. We enters combat by attacking enemies while in stealth mode, lasting for 1 turn. Not bad. And then these are his traces. Build around crit damage, attack percent, and HP percent, which is pretty good. And that means you just need to put a little bit of crit rate into him. Might be related to his relics as well. And then his first trace, Night Feather. Recover 1 skill points after using a follow-up attack. This effect can be triggered again after 1 turn. Interesting. Second trace, Dagger Hold. Moze's action is advanced forward by 30% when his departed status is dispelled. If Moze's current charge equals 4 or greater, then his action will instead be advanced forward by 60%. Interesting. And then lastly, Avenge Wise. When an ally attacks an enemy marked as prey, increase the crit damage dealt by 20%. And then these are his Eidolons. The first one is Oath Keeper. When this character deals damage with his ultimate, it is considered as having launched follow-up attack. Increases follow-up attack damage taken by enemy marked as prey by 25%. And then his second Eidolon, Wrath Bearer. After entering battle, Moze regenerates 20 points of energy. For every time the additional damage from his talent is triggered, Moze regenerates 3 points of energy. And then his fourth Eidolon, the crit damage boost effect of the Vengeance Wise additionally increases by 20%. And lastly, Faith Binder. After using the ultimate to attack an enemy target, Moze immediately launches the follow-up attack from talent against this target. If the target is defeated before this follow-up attack is used, then activate the follow-up attack against a random single enemy. Alright, that's pretty much what his kit does. It's very short compared to Fei Xiao. It takes a lot longer to actually get around all of her kit. So now let's take a look and kind of analyze what this character is capable of, on paper at least. I'm pretty sure right now many beta players are doing their jobs and trying to do all kinds of synergy with this character. But let's see what kind of potential things that he can do on paper at least. So first we take a look at his stats and we're gonna start comparing with other 4-star characters. Okay, I have pulled up all the 4-star Han characters. As of now, surprisingly, we only have 3 4-star Han units: Dan Heng, March 7th, and Su Xiang. So we're just gonna take a quick look and see how they're faring against Moze when it comes to stats. And mind you, 2 of these characters are actually from base launch of the game, so it's been a while. And March is like very recent. Alright, these are his stats. HP, okay, Moze is a bit lower. Attack is the same. Defense is much lower, which kind of makes sense. He's an assassin. And the speed is a bit slower than Moze, which also makes sense. Moze is an assassin, so he should be able to move relatively fast. And then we take a look at March last since she is more recent. And we have Su Xiang. Base attack is Su Xiang is higher, and HP also Su Xiang is higher. I guess she's a knight, so she's a bit stronger. So is defense, but speed a bit lower than Moze. But for Han unit, this is okay. It's not bad. So Moze is only stronger when it comes to speed. The rest are kind of lower. And then we have March 7th, the latest character for the Han path. Let's have a look. March 7th HP is so much higher, which is very interesting. And attack is a bit higher as well. And defense is much higher. And speed is much lower than Moze when it comes to a 4-star Han unit. So Moze, except speed, he is quite low when it compares to other characters, which is very interesting. So we might need to compensate quite a bit in terms of relics when it comes to his other stats, like attack, defense, and HP. We are hoping that he doesn't get hit too much and dies too fast, but we shall see. Before we start with explaining all of his basic kit, let's compare his scaling of damage from his ultimate, basic attack, and skill. First, let's compare it with Dan Heng. And Dan Heng is 100%, which I assume that his scaling here will be toned down a little bit later. And then in terms of wind damage for skill, it's much lower compared to Dan Heng when it comes to scaling. And ultimate, Dan Heng's energy cost is way lower. And the scaling, it's a bit better. And the scaling is a bit better when it comes to Moze, and the damage boost is quite significant here since you don't need any prerequisite, unlike Dan Heng right here. Dan Heng needs the enemy to be slowed in order for him to get an extra multiplier. And this buff is very good overall because it will boost his overall damage for 2 turns, which is quite significant when we talk about his talent later. And we compared him with Su Xiang. Okay, basic attack still 100%. Skill damage 210%. So when it comes to raw damage from skill, Sushang's still on the lead here. And for ultimate, Sushang's damage scaling is way lower than Moze, which is good, since Sushang gets quite a bit of damage from the sword stance anyway. And then she also get quite a bit of boost from her attack boost right here. And lastly, March. Let's see, her normal basic attack is just 100%, makes sense, pretty much like Moze's here. And then I know her skill is not damage skill, so we're gonna skip that. When it comes to ultimate, March scaling is way lower and Moze is quite high here. This is even at level 1, Moze is almost like out damage March from when it comes to her ultimate. But March is more like a semi-sub DPS and a little bit more support. And her main damage comes from her enhanced basic attack anyway. So yeah, that's a quick comparison when it comes to damage with the other 4-star characters. When it comes to skill, Moze's damage is on the lower end, but when it comes to ultimate, Moze's damage is quite good. So I think this ultimate damage is in pretty good spot right now. And his skill, I think, is okay as well, because he will get extra damage anyway from the talent right here. And also his ultimate is very good because, as I've said briefly just now, getting extra damage by up to 60% for 2 turns is huge. And Moze will keep dealing damage as well thanks to his follow-up attack here. And it says here, while a prey exists on the field after allies attack the prey, Moze will additionally deal 1 instance of additional lightning damage. So we have seen Fei Xiao's kit last time, and this is very similar to how Fei Xiao's getting charges for her ultimate. So by putting Moze and Fei Xiao together, they're just giving each other charges. So Moze is not a bad character to be put together with Fei Xiao. And the charges is quite high here, 7 points. But if you put every single characters to be a follow-up attackers, which I think Ling Xiao will also be very good, you can easily reach these 7 points. And just like Fei Xiao, I think he's going to shine very well in a follow-up team, at least on paper right now. And also, you don't need to use his skill too often, since you only need to reapply the prey state after getting 7 charges, because it will dispel itself after 7 charges. But the thing is, I don't know whether, like, if you switch target, if you use this skill again before he reaches 7 charges, will it reset the counter? Curious. Those who have seen this particular information from beta tester or beta footage, do let everyone know as well, because I'm really curious to know whether changing the prey target will reset the counter or not. I assume it wouldn't, because it's such a bad design otherwise. But the good thing is that you don't need to use his skill as much, so he's a bit skill point friendly in that regard. And I think that is quite evident from his trace as well, because you recover skill points after using follow-up attack, and this can be triggered again after 1 turn. So as you guys can see, most likely he's going to be a very skill point friendly character, and he will help Fei Xiao dealing as much damage as possible, because Fei Xiao might want to use her skill as well to deal damage. So what I think was very interesting is that his second trace right here, every time the prey set is dispelled, every time you use the follow-up attack, or when the enemy dies, I assume, he will move forward by 30%. Yeah, I think this means if the enemy dies before he reaches 7 charges, he will move by 60%, which is quite big. Because this just like Sparkle, sometimes this will cause the character to immediately take action. Just very good, just very good. And that means he can immediately reapply the prey state to another enemy. And then his last trace, I think, kinda show his support capability as well. When an ally attacks enemy marked as prey, increase crit damage dealt by 20%. So basically, he already gives everyone 20% buff for crit damage, which is mostly you get from a Harmony unit like Robin, Sparkle, Bronya, or Ranmei. And the fact that you get this much from a 4-star character, I think is a very good value. And this gets better because of the Eidolon right here. The Eidolon 4. The crit damage boost effect of Finch-wise additionally increased by 20%. So 40% crit damage is quite massive. And you should be able to consistently apply Praise State thanks to his second traces as well, because he keeps moving forward really fast. And the next one, I think what is very important is that his Eidolon 1, this will make him to become Topaz 4-star version. So pretty much a budget Topaz. And this also means that by default, now his ultimate also deals 25% more damage as well, which is very good. And let's see how this damage compares to boost that you get from Topaz. I'm not sure how much you get. Okay, so I have Topaz and Robin pull up here and compare how much damage that Topaz provide for follow-up attack buffs. I think it's in her skill right here. Yes, so at max level, Topaz provide 50%, which is huge, and Moze only provide half of it, which makes sense. Moze is a 4-star and it's kind of locked behind Eidolon, but this kind of compensated because Moze should be able to deal a decent amount of damage as well from his ultimate, because his ultimate is considered as full-up attack now. So let's take a look at Robin, because I think Robin also provides some buffs for full-up attack. If I'm not mistaken, it's on her trace, right? Yeah, it's right here. But this one is exclusively follow-up attack crit damage. So tell me which one is better. Is it like raw crit damage buff or is it raw damage buff? Do let me know in the comment section. Which ones actually matter more when it comes to overall damage buff. And then his second Eidolon, which is quite good. That means this allows him to deal a lot more damage faster, since his ultimate will buff his damage for 2 turns, as I've said before. And also now, thanks to his second Eidolon, he can get a lot energy faster, because after ally stack, Moze will additionally deal 1 instant additional lightning damage. So this one, every time this is triggered, Moze will gain 3 energy, which is pretty good. And once again, if you want to trigger this effect as many times as possible, you will need a follow-up attack team. And I already talked about the 4th Eidolon. So his last Eidolon, I think this is pretty good because now you can dish out his follow-up attack more often. One from triggered by ultimate and the other one triggered from the Talon. I don't know if this will consume the charges from the Talon, but I assume it would not, because it kinda takes away the point of like building charges in the first place. So I think this is just purely that now there are 2 ways for you to actually trigger his follow-up attack. So lastly, we talk quickly about his technique. I think his technique is okay. Stealth is just okay for exploration, since sometimes you don't want to deal with these annoying enemies that are chasing after you. And the effect is quite okay. He moves quite faster, and then he deals a bit more damage for 1 turn. But I wish that it doesn't stuck to Moze only, that you can apply stealth to a whole party member, so that you don't have to rely on this, like you need to attack the enemy in order for you to trigger all these buffs. I wish it's more like a passive buffs. I think it is just a much better technique if that was the case. So yeah, that's Moze. I think he is quite straightforward, unlike Fei Xiao that has a lot of stuff built into her kit. He mostly just deals damage through his skill, ultimate, and follow-up attack. And at the same time, he also provides some utility for follow-up attackers by giving them crit damage buff from his 3rd traces. And also, what's very important is that I think he is quite a good sub DPS because he's very fast. And then he helps other characters that needs to build charges through attacking or through a follow-up attack. So yeah, that's his kit. And lastly, let me kind of theorycraft on what build is good for him. I'm gonna quickly give my thoughts about which relics, light cones, and team that might be suitable for him. When it comes to relic, I think the Wind Soaring Valorous relic is pretty good for him because it gives attack, and then he kind of needs the crit rate since he already get crit damage built into him thanks to his minor traces. And then after the warrior uses follow-up attack, increase damage dealt by their ultimate by 30%, lasting for 1 turn. One of his main damage will be through his ultimate because the scaling is really good. And then he can do follow-up attack quite a bit, especially if you have him at E6. And you should be able to trigger his follow-up attack quite consistently, thanks, especially if you have him in a full follow-up attack team. Other than the Wing Soaring set, I think the other decent option would be the 2 pieces Ash Blazing Grand Duke, because you do quite a bit of follow-up attack. Not the greatest, but it's pretty good. And the 4 pieces, I don't think it's not worth it because you won't get as many buffs since it only deals damage to 1 enemy. Other than that, for the other 2 pieces, you can either just slap another lightning damage for 10% here, or you can just get another attack pieces like the prisoner. Or if you want to go even faster for Moze, you can always give him more speed right here with the Messenger's relic sets. As for the planar ornament, I think one of the better sets for him will be the Duran set, assuming that you will be putting him with a follow-up attack team, because this will increase his follow-up attack damage, and also it kind of boosts his crit damage as well, which is pretty good. But assuming that you're putting him with other follow-up attack characters. Other than that, depending if you're gonna put him with Fei Xiao, I think Izumo is decent because a bit more attack and a bit more crit rate is always useful for him. Other than that, you can always slap him Glemoth. You won't have much trouble because his speed is already very high. You just might need to put a speed boots to get this huge damage boost. Other than that, probably if you want to be useful in all scenario, the last one will be the Inert Salsodo. 8% crit damage is pretty good, and then ultimate and follow-up attack damage with 15% is quite good as well. So for whichever pieces that have the best main stats and substats for you, you can choose from any of these relics. So for a quick summary, which planar set that will be decent for him is either Inert Salsodo, the Glemoth, since he has very high speed, which is pretty good. Also, depending on whether you're gonna put him with other Han unit, most likely you will. If you have Fei Xiao, you can put him the Izumo Gensei. And lastly, if you have full follow-up attack team, you can go for Duran set. So whichever suits you the best. As for teams, right now, I think the most suitable playstyle for him will always be the follow-up attack team. So for sustain, you're either going to put Adventure in or Lingsha, since Lingsha is a follow-up attack healer, which we're going to discuss a bit further when we discuss about Lingsha video. I'm going to talk about their synergy again later. Other than that, you can always bring him with Fei Xiao. Fei Xiao will be the main character that benefit the most from Moze, and Moze also will benefit a lot from Fei Xiao as well, since Fei Xiao will give Moze a lot of charges. You can go with Dr. Ratio as well, just like Fei Xiao. Dr. Ratio can give Moze a lot of charges as well, thanks to his ultimate that allows Dr. Ratio to do follow-up attack by having your party members to attack as well, which is pretty good. Other than that, I think with Jing Yuan is decent if you have enemies that can keep calling for minions. Jing Yuan can help him clear those small enemies, while Moze will give boosted damage to the bigger enemies. Other than that, you can have him with March as well. March will be the second support for whichever Han characters you're gonna use, because March is a decent sub DPS unit as well. If you're planning only to bring 2 Han unit, one Moze, one facial, and the other one is a sustain, you can bring Harmony unit as well. You can bring either Ranmei. Ranmei is always good. You can bring Robin as well. Robin just boosts their overall damage again, but I don't think the damage from Robin's ultimate will give Moze charges. I'm not sure. So if those who have seen some beta footage, once again, do let me know whether the damage that Robin gives from her ultimate when the ally attacks will give Moze charges or not. And then of course Topaz will be a great support alongside Moze. And lastly, I think Yunli is pretty good as well, since all of her kids will be considered as follow-up attack, and the damage boost provided by Moze will be pretty decent. And Moze can help dealing single target enemies on bosses that keep summoning minions as well. Or in maybe Apocalyptic Shadows that sometimes you want to get rid of the mid-sized enemies as soon as possible, so you can start actually dealing toughness damage to main boss. So take your pick. In conclusion, let's do it quickly. For sustain, you either go for Aventurine or Lingsha. And then for the main damage DPS, you can either put Fei Xiao or Dr. Ratio. And for the other teammate, you can either bring another sub DPS by either putting March 7th or Topaz. This will help greatly when it comes to single target scenario and dealing as much toughness damage as possible. And then otherwise, you can always bring Harmony unit. I think Ranmei and Robin will be a great option. Ranmei can just help you to destroy enemy toughness bar much faster, especially if you are in Apocalyptic Shadow. And for Robin, Robin is just great to deal extra damage and also make your character move so much faster. And not to mention that she provides some crit damage for your follow-up attack team. And I don't think putting Nihility unit is that great for Moze. And as for the other non-Han unit DPS that you can use for Moze, you can either help him supporting Erudition DPS like Jingyuan, or the Destruction follow-up attacker like Yunli. As for Light Cone, I think most of the 5-star Light Cone will work just fine for him. Other than that, for 4-star, I think you can go either for Final Victor, Only Silence Remains, or Swordplay. And depending on the challenge, Return to Darkness will not be as bad, especially if the enemies, the one that revolves around, keep providing buffs to their teammates. This might not be useful right now since you don't see that many enemies that can provide devastating buffs, but in the future it could change, and the value of this 4-star Light Cone might just go up. But for F2P, probably Final Victor will be the best option, or the Cruising in the Stellar Sea, since this is just overall a great free-to-play Light Cone. And Final Victor is just good because it just boosts more attack, and then we're gonna build some crit on him for sure, and that just gonna boost his crit damage even more. And as a follow-up attacker, Moze can benefit a bit by getting multiple stacks thanks to the extra attack from his follow-up attack and ultimate. And lastly, before we close, we get a new 4-star Light Cone for the Han that featuring Moze in the art. This is the one, and this is the material. It's 4-star Light Cone Han Shadow by Night. But surprisingly, it doesn't work well with Moze. It increases the wearer's break effect by 28% up to 56% upon entering battle or dealing break damage. Increases speed by 8%, lasting for 2 turns. This effect can only be triggered 1 time per turn. This is amazing Light Cone for Boot Hill. I'm very happy because I'm a Boot Hill main. He's one of my main DPS that I really enjoy playing. And this is also good for March 7th, should you consider building her as a break damage sub DPS. So yeah, this is an interesting Light Cone. Might not be as useful for most players, But for me, it's extremely useful since I have boot hill, so I might try getting this light going. Anyway, that's all I got to say about Moze. I hope this discussion has been proving to be quite useful, and I hope you also had fun listening to me theory crafting and what kind of stuff that you can do with Moze. Especially right now, Honkai Star Rail has so many characters. There's so many teams that you can put with him. But once again, I really think that full life attack team is the way to go. And if you pull for Fei Xiao and Moze is in the same banner, you might want to get multiple Eidolons for him so that he can deal as much damage as possible while also providing a good amount of support for Fei Xiao. Anyway, thanks for listening. I will try making Lingsha discussion video as soon as possible as well. Been busy with work. I have so many contents I want to make, but I still can't make them due to how stressed I am with my new work and still getting used to it. But I really miss making content. I have so many discussion videos and very interesting topics that I want to bring about Honkai Star Rail. Anyway, thanks for watching. Until the next video, stay sharp, gamers.
Oh, and don't forget to like and subscribe!